What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today we're going to be revisiting the Slipstream perk in Black Ops 6 because it turns out it's actually a lot more powerful than I initially expected. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that this is now one of my favorite perks in the game by far, and I'm going to be using it on almost every single loadout that I use from now on because of this extra information that I found out. Now, just a quick recap of the video I did last week covering Slipstream. The description for this perk states that it raises your base sprint speed at the cost of removing tack sprint. So that's obviously what I tested for. And what I found is your sprint speed with Slipstream is going to be about 10% faster than your base sprint speed if you're not using this perk. Now, compared to our tactical sprint speed though, which we don't have access to while using Slipstream, we are going to be slower, about 8.5% slower based on my testing. But tack sprint is also limited, and unless you're using double time, you're going to be getting from point A to point B on longer distances in roughly the same amount of time with Slipstream versus using tactical sprint as much as you can. However, once you mix double time into the equation, now you're able to get around the map noticeably faster than you can with Slipstream, especially on those longer distances. Now, a big question that came up that I honestly should have tested in that video, but I thought it would be fairly self-explanatory. Does this also apply to sprinting sideways and backwards, since we can do that in this game? And yes, Slipstream does apply in these cases. In fact, it seems like we're getting a slightly faster boost at about 12 to 13% while using Slipstream. And that really didn't surprise me all that much. However, this is now where we're going to move on to the new juicy information here with this video. Like I said earlier, the description for this perk states that it just helps with your sprint speed. So obviously, when making the breakdown video for it, that's what I was focusing on. However, just recently, I discovered this applies to more than just your sprint speed. Turns out this also applies to your base walking speed. You actually walk 12.5% faster, which is quite noticeable. That's a pretty big boost to your base walk speed. Then when it comes to our crouch walking speed, we're about 14% faster when crouch walking, and that's pretty interesting. Although I do want to point out as well, another hidden stat I found while doing this testing is with the double time perk. In this game, it doesn't state that double time helps with your crouch movement speed, even though in previous games it does. It turns out it also does in Black Ops 6. In fact, we get a 30% boost to our crouch walking speed when using double time. So if you do plan on crouch walking a lot, while Slipstream does give a nice boost to your crouch walking speed, it's not nearly as much as the boost that double time will give you there. And then most importantly here, I was very surprised to find that Slipstream is also boosting our aim walking speed. And it appears we're getting a roughly 6% boost here. So not quite as much as many of the other stats in the game, but when it comes to aim walking speed, every little bit helps, especially in this game where, at least for most guns, there aren't multiple attachments that you can use to boost your aim walking speed. It's typically just a stock attachment, and the best one would be the Infiltrator stock on most guns. So it's great to know that you can stack Slipstream with that to get the fastest possible strafe speeds now, and it's faster than we were ever able to get before Slipstream was in the game. So it turns out Slipstream is not just limited to your sprint speeds. This is essentially the lightweight perk from previous Call of Duty games. In fact, it's actually a little bit more powerful than previous lightweight perks with how much of a boost it's giving to our movement speeds. And it's going to apply this movement speed boost to all of your stances. And this makes Slipstream so much more powerful than it initially appears on paper in the game. And it's the reason that this is now a staple on most of my loadouts. It's not that I'm going to use it on every single loadout, but all of my standard loadouts at least now have Slipstream on. And I've even started sacrificing the recon combat specialty, which was my previous staple just for a lack of better options I found. I'm giving that up now just so I can get Slipstream on my setups. And I've got to say, now that I've been playing around with Slipstream for more than a week at this point, I absolutely love how it makes the game feel overall. Everything I do feels so much more smooth than using tactical sprint all the time and having to transition through those animations and wait for those longer sprint out times with tac sprint, for instance. And also now I'm seeing at least part of why it felt so smooth. It's also helping with your other movement speed stats. So everything is just happening a lot faster and more fluidly. And just like I said in that previous Slipstream video, I really think this game would be better off if Slipstream were just built in as the default movement. And then if you really want tac sprint, maybe make that a perk. Or I'd be even fine if they just got rid of tac sprint entirely. But of course, these are all just my opinions. And also, after making this video and seeing that there were not only hidden stats with Slipstream, but also double time, I'm definitely going to start revisiting other perks to see if I can find any other hidden stats on those. Because up until this point, I've basically just been testing based on the descriptions when it comes to these perks. And apparently, hidden effects are being slipped in there. And it makes me wonder if this is intentional and they're trying to hide these things from us, or if it's just the case of the people writing up the descriptions. They're not the same people that are actually implementing the perks, and maybe the communication there isn't the best. I don't really know what's going on, but it's clear there are some hidden effects that are in place. And with that, this is where I'm really curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. First off, were you guys surprised to see these results with Slipstream and the fact that this perk boosts your movement speed in all cases, not just while sprinting? And second, now that we've had some time to actually play around with Slipstream, how are you feeling about this perk overall? Are you guys using it a lot? Has it become your go-to tier 3 perk like it has for me, or not so much? If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.